What's going on, trainers? Today we're doing a little bit different type of video. We're not doing any battles. We're just going to go over a few of my teams that I used in different tournaments that I did pretty well in, just to kind of show how much IVs matter to, I guess, newer players. Just hopefully to show some newer players that you don't have to have super good PvP IVs to do well in PvP. So this is a team that I used in the Ghost Stadium, and I went 0-5 with this team. So first off, we have my fortress, and you can see it's a hundo that I hatched wildly. So with those IVs, it does get to 1500, but that still doesn't mean it's the best for PvP. The second off, we have my Azumarill. This was a lucky trade from K-Fly. If any of y'all are in the Northwest Raiders, I'm sure you've probably seen him around. He's a pretty cool dude, and he's a really good battler. So if we look here, it is a perfect Azumarill, and as we see from that Go Stadium IV checker, it's ranked 244. So, you know, it's pretty up there. It's in the green, but still not, you know, the very best. And here's the Bastodon that I used. I got it pretty early on and used it quite often just because of how much of a wall he was for Skarmory, which was a really big part of the meta whenever it was introduced. Stadium that I got at that time, it was before PvP was released or even announced, so I wasn't looking for anything. It was just the only thing that I found. But because I wasn't playing for the Bulbasaur Community Day, it was the only Frenzy Planner that I had. And as we look here, this is my Altaria. I do have another one that I'll be featuring in the row for the next tournament. I did find it between this tournament and then, so like I said, I powered up and started using it instead. In fact, I have a third Altaria that I need to power up because it's better than the one that I'm currently using. So if we'll look at it, it's a 15, 14, 15. Let me pull it up on my IV checker real quick, which this will already be on the screen when I make the video. So again, this one is pretty low at 2,740 there in the red, but it got me through a lot of tough battles. And, you know, as this tournament shows, I went 0-5, so, you know, I was able to use it correctly. And here's the Metacham that I used. This one is one that you definitely want as a hundo because it, as 100%, it doesn't get to that 1500 mark, so you're safe to have it maxed out and all that. It is the closest to, you know, being the rank number 1 that I have in my entire Pokemon inventory at rank 6th. It's a 14, 14, 15. So, you know, it's the Metacham that I use basically all the time just because it costs so much to get them to 40. And because this one's lucky, it cost me half as much. So a lucky hundo Metacham is always, you know, preferable and something that I pretty much seek out anytime I'm able to get a lucky trade if the other person doesn't want something like a legendary or something like that. And even then, sometimes I'll trade legendaries for Metachams just trying to get that lucky trade. So this is the Kingdom Cup team that I used. In in the Northwest Raiders tournament. I went 5-0, and I'm not going to show the Bastodon just because I just went over that. So if you want to see that one, you can rewind the video a little bit. So we'll start off with this Blaziken. So it is actually pretty good, ranked there at 21 with a 412-14, and I got it on Community Day, and decided it had, pretty good PvP IVs, so I'd use this one. On Community Days, I'd, normally try to seek out good PvP Pokemon just because the featured Pokemon is so readily available that you get all kinds of IV combinations. So, just a little hint to that's one of the best times to get some PvP Pokemon, and the starters with their Community Day moves are normally, pretty good in a few different situations. Here's the Lucario that I used. It was Hatch, and when I hatched it, I checked what it evolved to just because I still needed a Lucario, and luckily for me, it evolved straight to 1500. I did mess up and evolve it right away without opening the second charge move as a Riolu, so that cost me 65,000 Stardust and 50 candy extra than what I should have paid for. You'll see that it's ranked 383, and it is in the green, so it's pretty decent, but 383, that's still a lot of space between the rank number 1. Little kind of story about my Kingdom Cup. Lucario, Bastodon, and Blaziken were the main 3 Pokemon that I used. I only used my Alola Marowak against one person in the entire tournament, but all 3 games, if it went 3 games, and all matches, I used those 3 Pokemon. And like I said, here's the other Altaria that I have. I found it and saw that it was ranked a little higher than my previous one, so decided to power it up. Still ranked 747, so that's, some space between it and the first, but for the longest time it was the one that I used since this Kingdom Cup was released. I basically had it on my team just to deter anybody from bringing 2 fighters or another Altaria, anything like that. It's like this Lapras, I used it to deter people from bringing Altaria, and kind of put a damper on any other Bastodons. Like I said, I didn't use it whatsoever. It was more of a bluff, but with that Surf, it can, hit a Bastodon pretty hard. It can hit a Blaziken pretty hard. So it would have been a pretty good option in the cup, but like I said, I used 3 Pokemon and that was it. So it was more of a space filler and a bluff than anything. The last Pokemon I used on this team was the Alola Marowak. I did get this one in a trade. It came with a second charge move already open, so I saved a little bit of Stardust that way, but the IVs were not good for PvP whatsoever, but it got extremely close to 1500, so I decided to use it anyways. Like I said, I used it in one match just to kind of throw off my opponent, and it worked pretty well. Ranked 3014. It's not the greatest. I have got a better one since then, so I'll be using it in the Sinister Cup and hoping it works out a little better for me then. So next we're going to go to the Rainbow Cup. Team is a Venusaur. I traded for it right before the cup, and when it comes to these legacy move Pokemon, you really can't pick and choose IVs if you only have one. which this is my only Frenzy Plant Venusaur under 1500. It would have been amazing if the HP and attack were switched. That would, be a lot closer to that number one spot. As you see, it's ranked 2,486. But because of the move Frenzy Plant, it is able to do a lot of work in the right situations. I'm not going to go over the Fortress or Lapras because I've already gone over them. So the Mantine that I used on my team, it was acting more of a flyer than a water type. As you see, I brought 4 water types to my team. It was kind of a bait to get people to use their grass types. And then I would have my, flying moves on Mantine, my Fortress to mow down the grass types, and, Lapras with its ice damage. Although I only used the Lapras once and didn't really like it, so after the first battle it was just the spot holder. So again, with this one, the IVs aren't the best, and I mean, I'm pretty sure y'all can see that it's a trend that my IVs aren't that good on a lot of my Pokemon, but it's because of the way that I use them and just make sure that I'm covered for any of my weaknesses and pair them against my opponent's team, that I'm able to do pretty well in these tournaments. So here's the Quagsire that I ran. Again, you'll see the IVs are not optimal. It does get to a very good CP, but I mean, really you want to look for the IVs over CP. And you'll see with a lot of the top ranked CPs, or a lot of the top ranked IV combinations, they're pretty high CP. And the last Pokemon on this team is my Lantern. You can see once again, I'm in the red, ranked at 2,112. So, not optimal IVs. But with my strategy of trying to trick my opponent into bringing the grass type and, having a counter for that, and also just making sure I have, coverage for the weaknesses on my team, which is kind of where Lantern fit in because of its electric type. It's able to take neutral damage from other electric attacks, and because it's so bulky, it's able to outlast most other things. It does have the water gun quick move, so it's not getting to charge moves very fast, but it is putting out a lot of quick move damage. The next tournament that we're going to look at, and probably the final tournament, will be the Mirror Cup using the regionals format that I went to in Arlington, Texas with Texas Rangers fan Phil Money and Vergiverg. It was a fantastic experience. I've probably said that 100 times. I have a video up of my experience there, so if y'all haven't seen it, I'd say go check that out. It was a blast. So for this cup, I'm only going to go over 2 Pokemon because the Venusaur, Lantern, Azumarill, and Medicham are all the previous ones in this video. So if you want to go back and check those out, if you missed it or just fast forwarded, they're in the video. If not, you already see kind of where they stand. This is my Sableye that I got prior to the cup. It was, beginning of the month, I believe. Just went to Mad Pecker and tried to get some lucky trades, and this one turned out fairly well. Rank 15, so it is pretty good. Sableye is another Pokemon that you want to get as close to perfect as you can because it maxes out at 1476 as a hundo. So, you want to get perfect. This one, it's up there, but it's, no perfect. Getting it lucky is another, really good thing because it saves you a lot of Stardust. And yeah, so the next Pokemon and final Pokemon for this video will be my Skarmory. This was a wild catch. I wasn't looking for it. It had just popped up by a stop at OP Snable, or I think that's the name of that park. But I caught it, saw the IVs were pretty good for PvP, and didn't have to power it up at all. I didn't open up a second charge move for the longest time, but still used it. Took it to this cup. It did really well for me, and I only lost to a guy that was ranked number 13 in the world, and the guy that went on to win the tournament. So I think I did pretty decent with the Pokemon that I have. If newer players, you take away anything from this video, I hope it's that you don't have to have phenomenal PvP IV Pokemon to compete or even do well in PvP. I will say you want to try to be in the high 30s because the Pokemon will be able to get to a better CP, at least, meta Pokemon. Some of them you do want in the, 40 level range, which I believe you have to be level 38 to get your Pokemon to level 40. I could be wrong about that. If somebody knows, let me know. I did start battling when PvP was released in December, and everybody was going in blind. It was amazing. But I was level, I believe, 36 or 37, and I don't have the record for that because Sylph didn't keep those records because they weren't ranked or anything. And at the level that I was still able to do fairly well. So don't let your level hold you back. Don't let your Pokemon's IVs hold you back. Go out there, have fun. If move Pokemon have, that's going to help you out a lot on what to block or what not to block. If you know how weaknesses and that kind of thing works, that's one of the biggest things. If just knowing that a flying type is weak to electric and rock, but does really good against grass and bugs and fighting, it's going to help you out a lot knowing those weaknesses. So I hope somebody learned something from this. If y'all like this video, let me know. I can try to come up with other things like this, and let me know so I can do something else like this. Like, subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next one.